We're on to number 6, and it is The Harder They Fall.
Don't even know where I'm at. There we go.
Directed by James Samuel, and
That's the
this
one.
is starring Jonathan Majors, Idris Elba, Zazie Beetz, just
Regina
a whole
King.
Regina King. My eyesight is terrible. I'm not wearing glasses, by the way.
Stephen doesn't need glasses.
Delroy,
It's just
I
eye
clearly
strain.
do, because I was struggling to read that.
It's eye strain for Stephen. Me, I
Yeah.
have got astigmatism. Gust.
Delroy
Unbelief.
Lindo is in there, and Lakeith Stansfield, but there's a whole host of stars in this film now. John, we were going through the list, I think 2 weeks ago, when
incredible.
it was sent
This
over.
was the one I was going to watch last night, but
Yeah.
I was too busy putting stupid animations together.
Well, it's
For
on
this.
it's on Netflix here in the UK. It
For
did
this.
premiere late last year, November 3rd, on Netflix, and it was in selected theatres. Did you see this in the theatre, Gianni, or did you see this in Netflix?
I saw it on Netflix.
Yeah.
It was on my list. I mean, Western is, I think, my favorite genre, though I will say that, like, though it's my favorite genre, I say that with the caveat of, like, I think none of my favorite films are Westerns. I just,
Yeah.
I love the genre so much, but I feel like it's kind of like horror, where I feel like I love the genre so much, but nothing captures exactly what I'm looking for in any given moment.
I'm still looking to be scared in my adult years with horror.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that movie that will scare me.
It's true.
It's not
there,
game.
there are definitely movies that I think are, like just classics and brilliant things that I'll watch over and over again. But The Harder They Fall, I would say is among them. Not because it's like particularly ambitious, and certainly not because it's like really subversive. Certainly not because it completely breaks the mold of like what genre film is. Simply because it is unabashedly a Western film. And it is so unafraid to lean into all of the familiar tropes and things that we all come to love about that genre in and of itself. You know, this tale of revenge, these, just like angst-riddled cowboys, these sort of nefarious goons who you can't help but root for. And like all of these things sort of come to a head with a brilliant cast. This is one of the best casts of the year. I think everybody in it does a stellar job. And
It really is. It's incredible.
The writing is so lovely. Like, all of these characters have their own little quirks and whims, and it really feels like, and I'm a huge nerd, so I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, but it really reminds me of Dungeons and Dragons with my buddies. Not because it's certainly not a fantasy, right? But like the way these groups sort of integrate together, the way each of these people have to sort of inadvertently work together one way or another, the way they're bonded so closely is really, really unique and special. And then when they have like these little side moments, like there's this, I won't really spoil it, but there is a sort of excursion kind of late in the second act where all of a sudden the heroes are forced to do something, like essentially rob a town, right? And the way they sort of concoct the plan is so perfectly them. Like, you just feel so comfortable with this group of people and the way they get together and the way they form plans. And the villains are all perfectly reflective of the heroes. So like, you're constantly really nervous that your heroes could die because you know how effective these villains are at enacting their plans. So it's just really, really interesting because you get to the end of this movie, and again, I won't spoil anything because I know you guys haven't seen it. The end of this movie, it's already gotten you so comfortable and familiar with the fact that this is just a typical Western story and you're just along for the ride, that by the time it reveals this like sort of third act twist, all of a sudden the movie decides to reinvent itself and you're like floored because, again, you've been so accustomed to just this delightful sort of gruesome journey that you've been a part of. They're not at all expecting it to give you a whole other revelation right at the end. And it completely redefines what the film is. I finished it. I watched it immediately again because I was just so delighted by it.
That's high praise, man. That's high praise.
One of those that makes you want to like watch more Westerns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's like, there's something about the genre and just the vibe of it. You go, I mean, I grew up watching them at my grandfather's house.
Yeah.
That's how I get hooked in Westerns. The Clint Eastwood ones, the lesser extent John Wayne, he was always an Eastwood man. And now I am an Eastwood man thanks to my grandfather. and now it pains me physically that Clint is getting old. It worries me. We'll not go morbid. We'll stop ourselves before we go there. We'll not darken the mood. But there's a generation of talent, the likes of your Sidney Poitiers, who are now starting to pass away, and it pains me because I grew up watching these guys through my grandparents. But there's something about the genre that's unique. It's just got that vibe to it. It's gritty, and it is. You spoke about it in the last one, the Cumberbatch one. I'm blanking already.
Dog, yeah.
Jesus Christ! I keep wanting to say the Day of the Dog. I don't know why I keep wanting to say the Day of the Dog. That sounds like a Western movie, a World War II movie that my grandfather would watch.
It sounds like a good movie. I would watch it.
The Day of the Dog. I'm thinking about Wes Anderson's Isle of Dog, which I absolutely loved. I went to a theatre to watch that, a tiny little intimate theatre, and it was beautiful. I love anything that's got dog in it. That's what I'm saying. There's just something about it. You spoke about in that last movie, you've the tropes of a Western, the sort of angst, the devil-may-care attitude. There's a freeness to it, that setting. You can go off and essentially do what you want. There was maybe a hope back then that it's a new world, you can maybe find your place in it. You had a lot of Scottish people going over there, bizarrely, and try to find a place away from the cold, harsh wetness of the Scottish Highlands. That's something you feel in these movies. There's something about it, the good, the bad and the ugly. You're trying to find your way in this world. There's a lot of vagabonds, but there's also that sort of morally just. I don't know, I'm gibbering here. I like Westerns, that's what I'm saying. I don't know why I've not watched this. It's an absolute joke. I love all these actors. I'm looking at the list. Idris Elba, he's my personal pick for Bond.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's 50 odds, whatever he is. He should be Bond. He wears a tuxedo better than anybody, or a suit better than anybody. He's got that ability to have that gentleman sort of way about him, the way he speaks. Jonathan Majors, I fucking love Jonathan Majors. I swore again, I don't even care. I loved him personally, and Loki, and I cannot wait to see him playing Kang the Conqueror and just getting his teeth into that character, the different variants, what he can do with that. I think he's absolutely stupendous. Defy Buds photograph he sent over, Gianni, you were wearing an incredible Defy Buds t-shirt. I thought he was outstanding alongside some really veteran actors
robbed of
in
an
that
Oscar,
movie. And Delroy's in this. I'm intrigued, how does Delroy do in this movie? Because I personally think Delroy, despite the incredible performances of last year, I think he should have been nominated for Best Actor for his performance in Defy Buds. I thought he was unbelievable. Some of the narrations to the camera. So it's an incredible cast. And what they're doing, man, in a sense, and kind of just shaking up a traditional Western, which would usually be all white. Let's be honest, it would. With some Hispanics in there. That was just the way those movies were consumed. I love the fact that we are now doing things. We're representing, we're showing different people, because that's what the world's all about, man. It's a melting pot, we're all different. We're not, I am like Casper the Ghost white. Stephen's maybe a slightly different white. We all look different, and it should be represented in cinema. And I love the fact, maybe hot in the heels, maybe not so hot in the heels after the Black Panther, that we're now getting to see all black cast in a sense. So I think that's so interesting. I cannot wait to watch it. I'm giving a shit though. Sorry, Gianni.
Delroy is great, to answer your question from earlier. There is a fun tidbit that I'll tell you, and then we can move on. But have you guys seen Watchmen, the HBO miniseries?
I have not. I've seen the original movie. I've seen the trailer. Again, we react to a lot of things and say we're going to watch it and don't watch it.
It's brilliant. You should definitely watch it. But there's the opening scene actually shows like a pretty brutal part of American history. But one of the kids in the opening scene, the thing that he's watching this character named Bass Reeves, this famous black sheriff back in the Old West, who's notorious for capturing what became the Klan members of the day. And so he was looking up to this Bass Reeves character, ends up sort of inadvertently creating a sort of superhero alter ego around him. But that's for later in the show, as you'll come to realize later. But anyway, the point of me telling you this is that the character that he's watching, that Bass Reeves character, was actually a real sheriff, did that in American history, and that is who Delroy Lindo is playing in this movie. So,
that's a perfect casting, man.
The Harder They Fall is like a historical fiction, so it takes real life characters and then just sort of embellishes them into this narrative.
And that was kind of like Tombstone. It was based on a real story, but there was a lot of embellishing with the likes of Doc Holliday. We never really knew what happened with Doc Holliday and your man, I'm blanking on his name, Johnny Ringo.
Oh, Johnny Ringo, yeah.
We never really knew what happened, who killed Johnny Ringo, but the way they fill it in Tombstone, so I enjoy that as well. And there was another one that I like, taking sort of familiar events in history and then giving a little bit of fiction twist on it. I think it was Overdrive. Mental violent sort of zombie movie World War II. J.J. Abrams' company was involved in it. I digress. I'm talking crap. talking crap. I like to look at this movie.
Yeah.
These are all movies that I've reacted to. in
John,
recent
they're accessible
times.
as
I've looked
well,
at.
which is the best thing about it, you know, and it's certainly another one I'm going to try and watch
And
over the
Regina
weekend.
King. Jesus
But
Christ. Man.
yeah, we'll move